Are you a good girl or are you a bad girl?
I'm a bad girl. And I'm nice. And that's why people mistake it, Oh, she's such a good girl. But in reality, I'm a bad girl.
All right, Corinne. Corinne, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
So, Corrine, my name. It's from,
No, where are you from?
oh, me, I'm from Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah, I grew up Cali, Oregon, the northern, and I lived in the Chutes River Woods, which is a little like cabin type area. There's a lot of pine needles.
Tell me about your family growing up. You had mom and dad?
I had my mom, my dad, who were together for most of only my childhood. I had my grandmother who, it was her house, we stayed in her house, and I had my uncle who lived in the back of my grandma's house.
How would you describe your childhood?
It was a little wild because I had chickens and I had a whole, coop in my grandma's home, but also my grandma had a dog and she had a parrot. So it was a little crazy, and then again, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun because I just got to run around with barbed wire all the time.
But no, I mean, how were you treated? Nothing crazy going on?
Nope, I'm the oldest girl, and I've always been somewhat of a brat, so growing up I always had, not always, I just had a lot that I could work with. And I'm also very outgoing. I like the outdoors. So I would make tree houses and I would go to downtown, and I actually really like my childhood thinking back on it. I had a pretty good childhood. I snuck around smoking cigarettes and
And what'd you do after high school?
after high school I went to, you mean like after 12th?
After you graduated high school, which is 12th grade, I guess.
I just worked. I did normal things. I didn't really have any path that I wanted to go down. And I could have done anything that I wanted. I lived in a house that had a couple acres, so I rode quads and I just did what every other teenager was doing in 12th grade.
But somehow you ended up on the track here in Los Angeles?
I didn't think that I would be out here, but I was born out here. So it rings home to me, and being away from my home where I've been comfortable and babied, I just feel a little nervous, but I like the nerve. I think it changes me every time. Every time I come out here, every day that I think, oh, I'm in an entirely different state, I'm like amazed. I'm not, scared, or what I mean to be excited.
How did you get introduced to sex work?
My friend Janelle. My friend Janelle is so sexy, and she is a cam model. And she used to just tell me about all these, different toys that she had that people would order for her. And I said, well, I want some toys like that. And she said, well, all you gotta do is be a cam model. Like, it can't be that easy. So I went online and I did cam modeling for a good month. Started making money. I never did buy myself a toy, but I did start making money, and I saw the difference. And then from the camming, it came to, oh, I don't have a computer. Oh, okay, well, I like dressing up, so I'm gonna dress up and I'm gonna go nowhere, So I would dress up and I would sit there and I would just take pictures, and then my pictures, they started getting shown on Facebook more and more and more. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just start this dirty little Facebook page. So I got away with it for a little while, and then I decided, oh, well, this is actual money. And a blade, the term kind of strikes for me. But that's what it is, and that's what, when I walk on the blade, it's all green lights. And I don't know what that means, but it happens every time.
So you're working South Central LA. Do you have a pimp?
South Central LA. Trying to cover Cora, right? Trying to stay comfortable. Trying to be a woman, but still a sexy lady. I'm just out here, and I'm taking off my panties because they're floral print and I just can't have it. And I'm walking around in heels that I think are attracting sex appeal because I know that that's cash. The best way that there is. Through entice, through, ay, Dios mío, look at that. Oh my goodness. And that's what I love to present myself on too, goodness. I can dress all types of dirty, but in the end, I'm still cleaned up with the fact that I look good or I feel good.
Are you a good girl or are you a bad girl?
I'm a bad girl. And I'm nice. And that's why people mistake it, Oh, she's such a good girl. Because she has a high-pitched voice, because she knows, because she doesn't cuss or slur. But in reality, I'm a bad girl. And I do things on a lot of different whims. Trying to strike a new personality or strike a personality that I've seen or wanted. I change it up, and I like to be a bad girl because discipline for me is always a learning experience. And I think to be accusated wrongfully,
Accused
wrongfully, would be punishable. And so I let people do it. And I take punishment for them because I'm numb in my whole body with goodness, from being a bad girl.
Are drugs a part of your life?
I think that with dancing, with motion, drugs are a big appeal. And I also used to think that in order to stay skinny, I had to do drugs. But I don't think that more and more. As I graduate through different outfits, as I graduate through different outcomes, good sex, bad sex, being a bad girl or getting caught, being a good girl and not knowing how I'm still bad, all those things, I just reassure myself every single day of something of those things. So every day I'm like, you know what, I'm a bad girl. I'm a brat because today I didn't execute the fact that I'm not wearing a bra. And I'm a bad girl because I portray this, that me not wearing a bra is my own style. When that's how it is in reality. I'm a bad girl because I instantly call to whether I'm wild or tame.
Are you the black sheep of your family?
Not the black sheep of my family, but I am the most outspoken and definitely the first one that was to dye my hair or wear, the color orange.
And you work on your own, or do you have somebody managing your business?
I had my friend Janelle. Like I said, and any cam model that I was really friends with, they pay a lot of money to look and feel the way that they do. So I was going from looking great and not feeling great to feeling great and looking great. And all I could think was, wow, like I'm a bad girl, but all my girlfriends are, doing these things too. So maybe it's all on what the actual congregation is, and the congregation is sexy.
Do you enjoy your work?
A lot of the time I enjoy my work. I enjoy walking, I enjoy meeting people, I enjoy wearing short dresses, and I use the word skanky. I enjoy using that word.
Are you skanky?
Skanky. I could take up porn, I could take up dancing, and I just know that they're not making these clothes for us to ponder at, They're making these clothes for us to wear, for us to curb into our own bodies, for us to look good. Every time I look good, I'm like, oh, all right, I'm accomplishing not only one thing, but the goal of the clothes.
Was there anything that you were just born this way, or was there something in your childhood that kind of led you down this path, you think?
Probably a little bit of both. I've always been the oldest, but at the same time, there's nothing that could lead you down a path of just dressing kind of outspoken. And it used to be different. So I would wear all black with, red, and that was sexy to me. And then it just started changing a little, and I got heels, and I shaved my legs all the way up to the thigh, and decided that sexy is a whole different types of things.
How old are you?
I'm 27.
And do you have kids?
I have no kids. I always wanted children, and I just adopted kids through spirit. And that's what I did as I went through my whole life, just being so conceited about whether I'm looking good or feeling good. I started clinging on to certain things and certain people, and I would call them my children. I could give you a couple examples if you want.
Sure. Tell me.
One of the things that I did was hurting. Hurting was made up or given as a item or a style of motion. And he was said to, not only result in pleasure, but to look good as well. I was like, okay, how's that gonna work, And it's the whole thrusting is a good example. Well, hurting, he went up and down. I said, you can't go wrong with going up and down. So I would sit there all day long, and I would just keep to myself. Or, I would go back and forth. And that to me was keeping a certain style. And it cured my mind a lot of the time. Made me feel better in certain situations. And hurting, I don't know how that name got to be about, but I didn't make it. It was already made like that.
And hurting is a person, or tell me?
Hurting is a ideal constructed from a gather of good or bad things. So hurting is from pine. Pine is from pain. You know, pain is extramented through whatever the case may be.
How does this kind of work affect you emotionally?
Anyway, hurting was one of my children. That's
Okay.
where I was getting at.
Oh, okay. How does doing this kind of work affect you emotionally?
Emotionally, it's a little chalky. There's a lot of situations that I get into where I'm feeling so spontaneous or sentimental. And I think back, or I get put in my place, well, you're not allowed to feel that way about this situation. Like, wow, darn. It's a throbbing moment. And it happens occasionally, not all the time, not often, but occasionally, where I'm questioned. You know, what is it that you're feeling right now? Do you deserve it? Can you name it on a spectrum that is appeasing? Can you make other people want what you have right now? And if you can, then it's a term, you know? And there's a name for it. It's sex appeal. It's deriving from something that you want someone else to yearn for.
Are you lonely?
Lonely. But I forget the word. Easily and often, I forget the word. And I replace it with independent or careful. I do things on my own, by my own. But on terms, it's just lonely. Such a lonely day, and it's mine.
What do you think most people outside this kind of work don't understand about girls that do this?
Some things I hate, the word in general, prostitute. It's just the word. Torn down and brought back up and hidden and, regained. I always found another word to place instead of that word. But when it came down to it, when I was being questioned about it or when I was saying it, an example, I would use that word, prostitute. And not one weight was lifted off of me, whether I said it or whether I said presented, which is what I always had to cloud my mind saying, oh, well, that's not it. That's not what I'm doing. I present it. That's the same exact thing.
What term do you prefer? What do you use?
I prefer presented. More so, well, now it's like you get to the adults where the adults are like, no, this is what it is. Women are out there like, this is my whole life. And you're sitting here like it's just a job. I'm sitting here as myself saying it's a preference. Nor is it a job, nor is it a title of your own humanity, but it's just a preference of living. Sexual versus non-sexual, giving or, bling, I guess the word is. Glamorous. Sexy.
Did you have dreams of doing something different with your life when you were young?
No. I saw myself very, very rural. this is the way I am now. That's how I saw myself.
Yeah.
And any ending that I would have now is something that I have seen before or something that I know I can see. Just because of the sexual trials that I've gone through in my prostitution of this angle, in my presented of my whole life compared to things that I've done or things that I would do. The way that I dress, things that I would do or things that I've done.
Have you been in love before?
What was that?
Have you been in love before?
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, in love. Now, so that I'm going through the trials of, I would prostitute my wife. I've heard that said. To the trials of, no, I'm just a prostitute and I just don't have any love. All I have is sex and I don't know what to do with it. I can see how someone could be that way about their life, but I couldn't be that way about mine. I believe in marriage. I believe in two people being exquisite of an act stronger than any pleasure. An act of creation of anything else. So I've been in love and I like being in love. And I like promoting all the, all the good the root of being in love.
Tell me about how this kind of work has affected your view of men. Are a lot of your clients married?
Yep, and they have a name. They're called Sowelu. Beggars, I call them beggars. Not for any term or reason, just beggars of showing. Beggars of proof.
How is this
beggars of sexy.
How has this kind of work changed your view of men?
It taps in pretty hard a lot of the time because I don't want to exotic to somebody who's married. And I have a firm rule against it. But other people, they show up, they try to crack codes, they try to give exceptions, and I'm just like, you don't understand though. Like, the respect that I have is no longer sex appeal or work. It's adoration. It's honor toward another couple. Things that prevent me from working well when people are in love in front of me or, when I'm shown in love.
What advice would you give to a young girl who's thinking about doing this kind of work? Would you recommend it?
Yes, young girl. If you're thinking about doing this line of work, I would just say raise a bar. Always raise a bar in something that you're thinking of putting a whole line of work into, because I know the term and I've seen the women. And they should all be fancy finagled. Touched but not abrupted to a halt or a motion. I saw this female who was in her underwear and a long shirt. And she ran around and she had sex with whoever, and you know what I mean? And that was just a type of work or a type of stoop that she had. But in my eyes, in my inner mind, I still thought of her as prostitute.
Do you think prostitution should be legalized?
I think it should be legalized. I think that's good a job as any. You get a certain way of dress. You behave a certain behavior. It feels good feeling good. So there's no point to end something that could just accumulate more grid of union.
Mm-hmm. It's almost
Which
like you're a
is
therapist
important.
in some ways.
Yeah.
Do you believe in monogamy? You think humans were meant to be faithful to one partner forever?
I do believe in monogamy. I wouldn't choose it personally. But I've seen it, and I've been around, the bias of it. It's just not something that I would advertise.
Or practice?
Yeah. Or even pay attention to, I wouldn't send it a vote. I wouldn't raise my hand for it.
What examples of a loving relationship were there in your life growing up?
Good example of love in my life growing up would be my love that I had with my brother. Because it was a connection of closeness where there was a respect demanded and the respect was met. And because of those two things, there was production being made at all times. And my brother walked in on me one time and I had, things going on for me. And it's not that he saw a whore or that he thought, immediately this skank is giving head to her boyfriend and I walk in. But he thought, you skank, he said. You skank. And I just thought about it for the longest time, this is my boyfriend in my room that you walked in on. And you're calling me a skank. And I couldn't explain to him how the Fahrenheit was not equal. It was a situation that did not call for a skank called to be. But yeah, that's what he said, and so I just laughed about it for the longest time. You don't understand skank if you think.
How does doing this kind of work affect your self-worth or your self-esteem? Does it make you feel good about yourself, or does it do the opposite?
It's a steep and shallow hill. And there's good and there's bad. And there's always going to be women, and especially women, who are going to sit there and say, oh, well, I do this better. Or, well, I'm going to show you how to be a prostitute. And you have to take those into hard consideration of the fact that, everyone's tip of tea is different. But there's no wrong answer to something that is being relinquished as pleasure. That's why there's so many different, spectacles of a certain thing. Is because that one topic that the humankind gathered, that one topic ended up being one of the best topics. One that everyone could understand. One that everyone was like, pleasure, okay, let's see what we're doing here. They really did good on that. The word, the temperament, the motion.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
I always used to think, no, have no regrets in your life. And of course, I've gotten older and I've had regrets in my life, definitely. Most of them are just situations that I had behavior on myself. Some of the situations are things that are just outcomed to be that way when I don't want them to be that way. But there's no really hard regrets that I have. Other than, my marriage or like being in love. You either regret being in love or you love being in love, because either way, you're stuck with something that you didn't have before. You're changed.
You were married once?
I was almost married.
Almost married.
Like on proposal, fiance.
Would you describe yourself as happy at this point in your life?
I would describe myself as pushing. Not typically happy or unhappy, but pushing for something or for a feeling or a word. And some days I get that satisfaction, and that's, the perks of being a prostitute is that, oh, okay, I feel good right now. I'm feeling good right now. And the perks are, money or open action against whoever or to whoever. And the downfalls are the same exact thing.
What would you say is the most important thing you've learned in your life?
Not to residuate on things, not to hold sore lip.
I'm sorry?
Not to pout. It's important. Being some flute of caring. And not caring in a way like caring to one another, but caring in a way of like, well, I have this piece of trash. And this piece of trash is going to, affect whatever area that I set it down in. I have this short dress. And if I wear this short dress, then it's going to affect me around